everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Figured I'd jump on quick because I have a busy day today, and I probably won't be on later, but I'll be around to answer questions on this post. Still talking about Midfoot Project, midfootproject.com, where we're helping runners. Starting soon, we're helping runners go through this course where they can improve their run form. I'm going to actually show you a couple runners today because I want to kind of come full circle and show you. We had another runner in yesterday who was in the clinic for treatment. And we looked at his run form, and it was 90% there. So I want to show you what he was doing, and it's a common mistake that we see, but it's just you're almost there fixing your run form, and you got these couple issues. Because what we found over the last 10 years is when people try to make these changes, there's some big errors that they make. So I'm going to review what I call the Run Form Chronicles, how most people run, how most people make a big mistake when they try to change their run form, and then how they almost get there. But if they can fix this one little thing, they have a system that can catapult their running. So if you're interested in learning more, going deeper on this, go to midfootproject.com. If someone can just type that in the comments for me, midfootproject.com, so people can just click on it and then go to the site to learn more. That'd be really appreciated. And I'm going to I have my favorite mug here, Occupy Mars, Space Nut myself. But let's show you this. So hopefully I'm pretty good at this in the morning. Let's see. So this is the typical way people run. Let's go ahead and just play this. I'm going to play it at like half speed so you guys can see this come through. Very, very typical run form. You see this all the time. This is how about 90% of people run. Gets themselves in a little bit of trouble because when they come through, they have this big old heel strike that we see here. And when that happens, you got to imagine the ground's coming up into the body, and then it's going to come right through the leg. And really, if you look at the force vector of this line, it is a force that's driving backwards. And not only that, is this knee is pretty straight. So I'm going to go through this real quick again. So if you haven't seen this video, let me just show you this. If we just mark her knee and we look at this angle, the closer you are to 180, the more in trouble you are. You can see she's hovering right around 177. Let's bring this down a touch. 177 degrees, so a very straight knee. What I equate this to is runners who, you think about running, it's like a jump and repeat a jump about 80 times a minute on each leg. If you think about just a single jump, if you were going to jump in the air and land, you wouldn't land with 177 degrees or 180 degree knee because when the knee's locked out like this, there's no shock absorption. So it's no wonder that we have an injury called runner's knee because the knee is getting crushed in this situation. And not only from an injury standpoint, but from a run form standpoint, when this leg pushes off back here, it's braking on the other side. So you hear me talk about tapping the brakes. This is essentially what I'm talking about. You're driving down the car down the road, imagine, and it's kind of like tapping your brakes 160 times a minute because she's going to take 80 steps a minute on this leg, 80 steps a minute on this leg, 160 times. She's tapping the brakes, overloading the knee. It's very difficult to get through a training plan, a training cycle, or run for a long time without getting hurt when you run this way. But unfortunately, most of us run this way. So let me talk about people making the transition. So we have this runner who's banging away at their heels, the straight knee. They start making these changes. This is what we've learned over the last 10 years, is that they make this next step where they try to not hit their heel when they're running, and that's completely the wrong way to think about midfoot striking. It's truthfully all about the knee position. So I'm going to show you this next runner. Let me put this on here, make sure I got the right one. So then people start making a transition towards something that looks like this. I'll play this at half speed. So, I can watch someone run, not trying to be cocky or anything, but I can pick these things out quite easily because they look the same across the spectrum of runners. So this would be a good example of a runner who, at first blush, looks like they're a midfoot striker, right? You can see that, but they have this nice kind of flat foot presentation, like this a little bit thicker. So a nice flat foot presentation, but here's the trouble with this, right? Is that this runner still has a pretty straight knee, 170 degrees, 177, just like the previous runner. So when we think about this, you can't think about midfoot strike as just midfoot striking. When we first started this out, Pat O'Connor and myself used to hammer this. Okay, let's get him under the midfoot. Let's try to do this. And then we started looking at the research. We started looking at how the body moves. We're both physical therapists who treat runners every day. So how do we look at that and say, is this right or wrong? And what we find is that The foot position is really dependent of the knee position. You have to teach the knee how to land properly, and the foot kind of just follows suit. So it's something that we do at the Midfoot Project. It's a 5-week course where we work runners through this. But when you think about this runner, the force, and let's just talk about the force of the ground, because you're working against the ground when you run. This force is still getting applied backwards because of that position of the shin. What we want to do, so again, tapping the brakes, this leg pushes off, we had a braking force here. What we need to do is think about this knee position. How do we get this knee to land more flexed? Because that is going to be the thing that's going to allow a couple things. It's going to allow for the most shock absorption. You're going to be able to tap into your natural like rubber bands or bungee cords. And what that is your muscles and tendons are elastic. If you think about stretching a rubber band and letting it go, your muscles and tendons have the ability to do that. But when you're running with this straight knee, you're crashing into the bones, and your bones don't have any recoil to them. When you hit them, that's it. They hit, they stop, and then they have to bend and load. It's nice if you can take your stride, push off, and land. And when you land soft, shock absorb, load those rubber bands, and then you throw it into push off behind you, and you just repeat that every step. So it's really critical. So we have, let's go through this real quick. We had the first runner here, way overstriding, straight kneed. And then the second runner is kind of the same thing. They just have a flat foot. So the next runner I want to show you is about 90% there. They're almost at the point where they're able to shock absorb. They're actually shock absorbing well, but now they went too far in the opposite direction. So I'm going to show you this runner. Let me just make sure we are looking at him properly. Okay, so I'm going to play this. Let's watch this at full speed because he has, whoa, that didn't work out too well. There we go. When we look at this at full speed and if we slow this down, let's play it again. Let me get a little closer. I didn't do a great job filming yesterday apparently. So let's bring his right leg through. Now here's a great thing to look at. We look at this runner being on 90% there because look at the shin position where the other runners had this driving force backwards. They had a huge braking point. This runner, if we look now, is the ground reaction force is pushing up through the shin. You can notice how that's not a force backwards, so it's a little bit easier to drive yourself down the road, right? And if we go ahead and measure this angle quick, there and there, he's going to be nowhere near the other runners. He's at 157 degrees. And he's getting a lot of shock absorption. Here's the issue with this runner, and we learned this over the last 10 years, like I mentioned, that he now has gone, like, okay, first runner heel striking way over here. We want them to be over here. So they go through this process, they're here, and then they start, just landing on their toes, which is wrong, so they're almost there. And then this runner has made the correction, has gone past where we want. Because you can't land right underneath your base of support. No matter what anyone tells you, landing right underneath yourself is not an effective way to run and move yourself down the road. So let me just wet the beak here. The big thing with this runner, let's go back to him so you guys can see this, is that now he's not, when he pushes off, we like to see some opening of this stride. So this runner, if we had to depict where his legs would be, we would see this. But instead, you see how this leg is really bent? Let's get rid of that, sorry. See how this leg is really bent? He's not maximizing his push-off now because he's getting his foot down way too soon. So what we have to do with this runner, and what we teach in the Midfoot Project, is how to actually, so in 5 weeks we go through, and we have these little PDFs we give you, and we give you these training videos, kind of like this, with some Q&As and live Q&As and things. But what we have to do with this runner is we have to teach him how to run midfoot at every pace. And we do this in week 5. And what you do, week 5 of the Midfoot Project, is we teach you how to open that stride because you can't be, everyone's big on cadence, right? So you need this high cadence, you need a high turnover. What you have to realize is there's a ceiling to that. Your cadence can only go so high before it's not efficient. What it equates to is like a pitter-patter. You're pitter-pattering down the road, and you're not maximizing your step. So imagine this for a second. If every time you pushed off on one foot, you went an extra inch or two, 80 steps a minute on one leg, 160 on both, over the course of a marathon, a half marathon. If you gained 1 to 2 inches of distance on every step at 160 times a minute. The key thing you have to know about running is the more time you spend on the ground, the more likely you are to get hurt. So what we want to do is you want to maximize your pushing forward with no up. And that's what this runner's lacking. He's got a pitter-patter run form. He doesn't open his stride. He's got a great midfoot strike, but we teach him to open up his stride. That's what we're going to be working on here in the Midfoot Project. So there's a lot of things to be thinking about. Now, there's a lot of information out there that you can look at and go for it and try to do this. We're launching a course on April 1st here coming up, where we'll actually teach you all of this stuff and give you the ability to go through exactly what we've learned over the last 10 years doing this with 1,000 runners. We've kind of cut out a lot of the noise of how do you do this, because here's the other thing, you need the strength workout, you need the flexibility. So if you're serious about improving your running, you want less braking, less injuries, better impact, better shock absorption, check out midfootproject.com. I'll be around in the comments to answer your questions if you have anything, but midfootproject.com is where we're going to be going live here with our next training, and we look forward to helping you guys out. We got a great crew already coming in, so we're excited. Patrick O'Connor and I will be leading that group. And if you guys are interested, midfootproject.com. All right, guys, have a great day. Bye.